everyone, welcome to the pickup line. My name is Dina, here with my girl Mauri. You're in the pickup line with
everybody.
us. We are single moms and we like to talk about all things from the carpool to the crib.
Yes.
And today we're going to share some insight for the next generation of moms coming up right behind us.
Excited about this show because this show I get a lot of questions on how I raise my kids, and people say to me like, your kids are so good and so well mannered, and what did you do or how did you do? What I did is I went back to the day where my grandma was, and I took some simple old school manners and added it to new school parenting, and I taught myself how to parent. Right? It's like a cookbook that's beyond any other cookbook ever. And single moms get so discouraged trying to see if they're doing things right or wrong because they go back to how their grandma was, or they're looking at TikTok, or they're looking at Instagram. So we just want to share a few stories with you guys on how to encourage you to keep going, to keep moving. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not a bad mom. You're a human being. And so we wanted to talk to you about the old school way and the new school way of being a mom.
This
right?
is the beauty of having support. We
Right.
talk about, like we joked before, and I was saying how you would say like, I wish I had a me when I was growing up.
I wish.
And I'm like, I'm so happy I have a you, right? And so now we get to share all that with you guys.
So like one of the things we want to talk about is simple, basic human interaction. Interacting with your children, getting them emotionally stable, and not sitting at a table with a device and saying to your kids like, here, keep yourself busy because mom's going to have a glass of wine with Miss Dina. No. And that's kind of hard to do, especially when you're parenting, because parents feel like, oh yeah, it's okay, it's safe. They can get on the iPad, they can sit down and talk. But when we grew up and we went in a restaurant, the first thing they did to us is hand us crayons, and a sheet of paper
and a
to
coloring
color.
sheet,
And I think a lot of parents either stay in with their kids because they don't know how their behavior is going to be when they take them out, or when they take them out, they load them and overwhelm them with devices instead of just saying, you know what, let's both put down our phone. Let's all have a conversation. Let's all look at each other. Let's all figure out how each other's day was. I know that parents always ask their kids, how was your day? How was your day at school? Good. How are you? Good. How was it? Good. Are you okay? Yeah. But sometimes as moms, we've got to drag that conversation out of our kids.
Well, you remember, like I would say back in the day, people would have dinner together, and now we have so many activities going on that it's challenging to actually set aside time to have dinner with your family. But you have to be super intentional about scheduling that time with your family, even if it's like once every 2 weeks, or maybe it's once a month. I mean, that seems like it's pretty drastic, but sometimes that's the way that it is. But setting those devices down is such a great opportunity to really connect with your kids and give your children an opportunity to, explore and have conversation with you. I know for me, when I was working full time, and I had a business on the side, and I had to really teach myself to set my phone down and schedule that time where I was going to be like, okay, my kids are talking to me. Let me go ahead and give them my complete attention. Or I would say to them, if I'm in the middle of a text message, I would say, hey, like, give me a minute to finish this text message, because I want to be able to give you my full attention when you're talking to me.
Correct.
So both parents and kids like set the devices down.
Because if you hand your child a device too early, before they've even developed their frontal lobe, before they even know what they're doing, it's a disadvantage to them in so many ways. It's going to lack social skills. They're not going to be as compassionate. They're not going to be able to hold a conversation. There's so many things that device takes away from a child, especially under the age of 13, right? So if every single time you go out to dinner with somebody, you're handing them a device. Every time you're in the car because you don't want to hear them talking, you're handing them a device. Every time you're in a meeting or on the phone, you're handing them a device. Then that device is becoming the parent.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to think of more creative ways to do things with your kids, to interact with your kids, to get to know your kids. Like, how about just color with them?
Yeah.
Because coloring reduces stress. Like, that's why there's so many coloring books out right now, right? It reduces stress. And it also says to the child, I really want to spend time with you.
Yes. That's imperative too, that the kids know that the parent wants to spend time with them, and
Mhm.
quality time like that is so important, you
Yeah.
know? And then loneliness will set in. Like if all they're doing is on their device, it's lonely. It's just
Mhm.
them. And then how do they adapt to uncomfortable situations where they have to have a conversation with someone
Mhm.
and look them in the eye,
Yeah.
and if they've been stuck on a device, they don't learn that kind of stuff.
Loneliness it was becoming an epidemic before COVID. I think when COVID did something to that generation of kids that missed that year of high school, that missed that year of whatever they were doing. COVID hit, and the kids were just a little bit different,
Yeah.
right? I loved COVID because it was the first time me and all my kids got together at the same time and all lived in the same house, even though they're all a different age. So it's like I've been parenting over 3 decades,
Hmm.
and so each thing has changed. But I think that your phone can't hug you.
Right.
Your phone can't love on you. I mean, with AI now, it can tell you you're beautiful, even though it doesn't really know you're beautiful, right? But that's a false sense of security. And with that false sense of security, your kids do not develop emotionally well. They just don't. And you wonder why we have kids that are doing some of the things they're doing is because they're really seeking attention in all the wrong places. I mean, it's like I can remember my grandma say, "Yeah, you looking for love in all the wrong places." But like, so we as parents have to say to ourselves, hey, maybe maybe you're just going to have to show out in the restaurant, and I'm going to have to show you what a timeout is, or maybe I'm going to just have to figure this out a different way, because sitting that device in front of your child is doing zero for the child.
Hmm.
It's basically doing something for you and not them.
And let them be creative. Like give them the opportunity. One thing we have here is we want to share is like let them be bored. Let them be bored. Let them figure it out. Let
Mm-hmm.
them get creative. I've done that with my girls, and years ago I did no device day. And
Mm-hmm.
we like on Sundays it was no device day, and they would come up with ways to. Initially they're driving me crazy, right? They like real talk. They were just like, when can I have it back? When can I have my iPad? When can I have. And then once they realize, you're not getting your device, which is another thing as a parent. Like if you say something, do it, like stick to your word, because that
Mm-hmm.
is so super important. But then they would like color, or they would make those little rainbow looms.
Right.
They would
Right.
make beaded bracelets. Like
We're big
they
on
found a
we're
way to
big
get
on
creative.
puzzles, and I remember when I would take my kids. We're big on tic tac toe,
Mm-hmm.
and word search was always in the menu.
Uno was our
When
thing.
when we went to a restaurant, word search was in the
Mm-hmm.
menu. Tic tac toe was in the menu. They still beat me in tic tac. I don't really know how. I don't know how, but they still beat me in tic tac toe. But those were things that were in the menu for kids when they went to restaurants. Like
Mm-hmm.
some restaurants, I'm curious to find out if restaurants still give away kids menus with the crayons. Like I don't,
We
my
went
kids
to
are
one.
older,
We
so
went
I
to
don't
one.
know.
We went to one a few weeks ago, and they still did it. My girls actually asked for it. They're like, "Can we
Mm-hmm.
have the crayons?"
Mm-hmm.
So, and if we were to incorporate a device, which we are trying to stay away from devices. But if you are like we've done this before, being at dinner or at lunch, and we're incorporate a device, we play different games together.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like there's a game called I think photo. Oh my gosh, photo something, and you have to guess whose photo the phone came from. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like playing games like that. Or we'll do like a word search. We'll find a word in the restaurant or on a piece of paper or on the menu and trying to see how many words we can make from that word.
Right.
So things that get to stimulate their
So
brain.
I went through an era with a son that didn't have devices like that. Right. And then Mariah was just like getting into the devices. Dee was like, yeah, no, he just knew to sit there and spilled his iced tea every time we went to a restaurant. I mean, I was like, dude, like, what's happening? Um, and then Gracie was more of a device person, but she's
Mm-hmm.
very into puzzles and Legos and
Yeah.
doing other things. So if I guess you have to say to yourself as a parent, if you're at the restaurant with your kid and she's the only kid and it's a friend, she's probably looking at y'all like, why am I here?
Absolutely.
Right? Why am I here? So you just have to be able to think of creative ways to introduce your kid into the conversation. And that brings me to like our third point. In those situations, you have to be a parent and not a friend. Like, you're not going to cut up on me in the middle of Lenox Mall. Like, you're not going to cut up on me in the restaurant. I'm not, I could take my children to any restaurant. I mean, it could be the best of the best and the low of the low. And my kids knew how to act.
Right.
I didn't, don't have a hissy fit on me in the middle of the restaurant, show out and move your legs till they won't bend. Like, I cannot handle that. I mean, that is like a timeout, because you can't spank a child now. Like, right? You cannot spank a child, but you have to have a stern conversation with them. And I think with my kids, I learned to be stern but sweet. I was very, I could shoot them a look. You know, your mama did that.
Yes.
And in your mind, you like, put that shit down.
Yes.
Put that shit down while you smiling. Don't you put that shit up in here. I would do that to my kids, but then I would love on them. So I was very stern, but I was also very sweet. Like, I made it a point to let them know, hey, I'm mom. I'm not your bestie. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to be there for you, but we ain't dressing alike.
Right. Well, kids thrive with boundaries. I mean, people do too. And kids thrive when they know what to expect. I think it's important to like give them an idea of what to expect too.
Right.
So as a parent, like, be prepared, like bring some crayons and bring some coloring sheets, or bring a book for them to read, be prepared like that. But to your point, like, I'm your parent, like, we're not besties. So make sure that you're setting those boundaries. And I feel like that's where children thrive, is when they have those boundaries and they're not just in complete chaos.
Yeah. But even as like the parents have to understand is, back in the day it was do as I say, not as I do. That's a double-edged sword, because you want to guide them, not necessarily control them. You want them to make good decisions, but you don't want them to be your decisions.
Right.
Because they're going to go through things in life, and believe me, I don't want you to do everything I did, right? Because I know what I did.
Don't.
Like, I know what I did, right? But I don't want you to be me. I want you to be better than me.
Oh, absolutely.
If that makes any sense. I want you to be better than me.
So that's the approach as a parent, is like, how am I raising my children to be better than me? Right. To live up to their full potential, but better than I was. Because we wanted to evolve.
Yeah.
We wanted to evolve. So just thinking about like looking back at how I was as a child and what I would want my kids to be better at, and we're working on this, is I have just my mouth. Like, I had not like cursing, but I would always talk back. Like, I always had something to say. Always. And so with my kids, what I've done is, thinking about that with myself, is giving them a space to share how they're feeling, but in a respectful way. Because I think mine was just kind of rebellious, because I didn't feel like I was being heard, or maybe, I just wanted that level of independence. So I've been pretty intentional with my girls to be like, what are your thoughts on this? You can share your feelings, but you're going to be respectful in the way that you do that to me and to others.
I think that's good. I think that's a lot of kids, because you get kids right now with that slick lip, like that.
That was
like,
me.
I'm like, look, zip it. Like, you get kids that are like that all the time. I don't think that was so much of me when I got older, but I think for me, what I wanted to teach my kids most of all, and when I say don't be me, be better than me, is their independence. Is just their independence. It was the importance of education. It was the importance of, I'm going to check your grades. It was the importance of making something of yourself.
That's so good.
Right? It was, I used to have my son spell intelligent for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, D, spell intelligent. Always say, I'm intelligent. I'm intelligent. And after that, I mocked each child with that. But what I wanted my kids to get from me is never depend on anybody. Right? Depend on God.
Mm-hmm.
Don't depend on mama. You know, I would tell my kids this, and this is so funny. I'm going to give you this. You know, mama loves you, but Jesus loves you best.
Yeah, I've heard you say that many, many times.
Yes, but Jesus
Mm-hmm.
loves you best. Make your own money.
Mm-hmm.
Do things differently, because I was in a different situation. Like, right, I had a different type of situation worked up where it was I stayed home and, you know, helped raise the kids. And, you know, I traded my stilettos for those suits.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times that I want to show my girls, you know, and that's part of the purpose of this podcast is, baby, I don't care how old you get. You can put them stilettos back on and do what you need to do.
That's right.
And you can handle your business. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, when I tell my kids, you know, don't be me, be better than me, make your own money, have your own independence,
Mm-hmm.
be able to control your own life. Not that my life was completely controlled. I don't want that to get misconstrued. But when you have children, you do things that you need to do what's best for them.
So I've heard people say that you're the parent. Parents are the parent that they needed.
Mm-hmm. If
What
you
do you
have
think about
if
that?
you're, I think that if you're in a single parent household and that parent is giving you what you need emotionally, mentally, and helping you become a really good person, it's okay. Single parenting isn't bad. You're not lacking anything. You're not missing out on something. You know, people will say, oh, you need both your mom and your dad. Some girls I know have their dads. Some kids I know only have their mom. It doesn't matter as long as that parent that you do have is emotionally balanced and can help you be a great person.
Mm-hmm.
What we're looking for is mentally healthy children.
That's right.
And I think that right now, today, we have a lot of mentally unhealthy children that are hiding behind devices, hiding behind the circumstances of the way they grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would tell my kids this all the time. Hey, we can't use that as an excuse forever. That can't be the excuse not to be great.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be the excuse for you to be mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can accept mediocre if that's all you can give me. But I know you can give me more.
Right.
Right.
And the narrative has been for so long, for years and years, is like, as a single parent, as a single mother, that there is something missing, you know. And I think that I can think of people who are married raising children where the kids are still missing out. To your point, one of the parents, they're not available, they're not emotionally available, they're, you know, they're kind of checked out. And so that connection with the kids, it's so important to have that connection. And I think that's a narrative we need to just get rid of.
I think that people need to understand that as long as a child is seen, as long as a child is soothed, loved on, taken care of, cared about, and as long as a child is safe,
yes,
that child grows up mentally healthy. If you're a mother or a father in an abusive relationship, seeing that parent go through all that stress, that kid doesn't feel safe.
that's right.
If you're an infant and you're in the crib and you're crying mercifully, you're just crying, and nobody picks you up and soothes you, when crying is your form of communication, you don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
That stays with you.
It does.
And we have to allow children to be children as long as they can. Like, we've got to hold on to their innocence as long as we can, because if we don't do that, then we're raising a nation full of messed up children.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that lead us? What happens then?
Right.
You know, I don't allow my kids to walk in a room and not address you. They may not say your last name, but they're definitely going to say, "Hey, Miss Dina."
Right.
"How are you, Miss Dina?"
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get up and they're going to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first met my girl's dad, and his grandmother would walk in the room. I mean, I don't care what we did, where we were. When Grammy walked in that room, the room shut down.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, wow, what a level of respect.
Yeah. And that's one of the points we
What
want
a
to,
level
that's
of
one of the points we
respect.
want to make today is like, we want our kids, we want to teach them manners. We want to teach them gratitude.
Yes.
Yes. I would say that's one of the main points is like, teach your kids gratitude and teach them gratitude early.
Mm-hmm.
Teach them respect early. Not to say that we want them to be like doormats, but we do want them to be grateful and show it. And one of the things I've done with my girls, I've shared this with you and I'll share this with you guys now, is there was one year for Valentine's Day, I actually got them journals, and it was
Nice.
it was a gratitude journal. And I was like, every night before you go to bed, just write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for.
That's awesome.
Before you go to bed. And it just kind of sets their brain in a more positive space, where rather than thinking about like, oh, I didn't this and I couldn't that and I should have this, they're more in a space of like, oh, I got this. And there is a brain center that is the brain, the lack and scarcity, and it takes them out of that and puts them into a more creative space.
And I think that, for one, everything begins with gratitude. Friendships remain because of gratitude. Marriages stay because of gratitude.
Sure.
It's better when you're in a work environment when you have gratitude. If somebody does something for me, it's like, thank you. It's when I raised my kids, it was always, Mariah, if I give you this block, you say please, and thank you. Please and thank you. D, I would tell D this when he was little. He's like, Mom, I want the tea. I want to say please. And then once I give it to you, what do you say? What do you say? You say thank you. And so you can't spend thousands of dollars training a dog and not training your child. Like, you've got to train your children in a way they should go. The Bible says, train a child in the way he should go, and they will never stray. And once they realize, I have a nice house, so I'm going to pick up the trash on the floor because I'm thankful for where I live.
Right.
Once you teach them to be thankful for all things, you don't really have to worry about how they're going to act when they go out, because they already know that, right? We can't let our children think that the way they live is expected.
They don't take it for granted.
I always tell my kids, I've told my kids this forever, you're not going to live like I live if you don't get smart, if you don't have a job, if you don't pay your way, if you don't get an education. That's not going to happen. You have to be serious about something, because this world ain't going to give you nothing. It's like, we're going to go back to the hair. It's like, if I take you to spend the night with somebody, they're not going to bathe you and comb your hair and fix you like I would, because I'm your mother, right? I'm your mother. And they have to be grateful for that. They have to be grateful for the things that they get. They have to be grateful for, when we leave each other, we always say, my favorite line when I hang up the phone is, I love you, bye. Okay, love you, bye. Because one day you won't hear that, and you'll be grateful that you did.
Yes.
So I think gratitude speaks volumes, and that goes to, number 5 is, as a mom, just trust your gut. Not a mother, as a parent. Trust your gut. Trust your instincts. There are going to be nights where you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, Gracie hasn't called me. I would say this all the time about my son. Would get on he would call me. He's like, hey, Mom, yeah, I'm headed to Southeast Asia. I'm like, what? When are you leaving? He's like, tomorrow morning. Yeah, I'm backpacking. What? And you have to remember, then I didn't have like a tracker like we do now.
Right.
I just had to give him to God and pray for him and say, you know what, Lord, take care of his steps, because this child is leaving me. So I had to trust my instincts and figure out, there was no life 360.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
I had an incident happen about a week ago with my oldest daughter at school, and this whole AI, you know, situation where, AI can be used as a source and blah, blah, blah. And she was telling me the story, but that the conversation she had with the teacher, and instinctually I was like, I need to send this teacher an email because I feel like she is going down a road with my daughter that's going to cause stress. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really big on my kids advocating for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always like, well, you need to send her an email and let's talk about what you're going to say, because at this point you're in high school. But that was something very instinctual for me because I was like, this is not going the way that it needs to go. So as a parent, you have to know when to kind of encourage them to advocate for themselves, but also know when to step in
Mm-hmm.
and lead by example. Like show them, help them write the email, help them have the
Right,
conversations,
right.
ask the question, like especially when your kids are older, like, okay, so tell me what you're going to say in the email, or tell me how you're going to address that.
Mm-hmm.
And now my kids have gotten to the point where I don't even have to ask a question. They're just like, I'm just going to say, blah, blah, blah. And they just share with me what they're going to
Right.
say because they know I'm going to
Gracie would
ask.
call me and say, this is what I said.
Yeah. Like
this is what I'm writing.
Right. And it just gives them a sense of independence. It helps them feel confident in themselves. It gives them that autonomy that they need, because they're not going to be like, you're an empty nester at this point. Like they're not going to stay at home forever. So it's just really empowering them. So trusting your instincts to know when to step in
Mm-hmm.
and how to guide, and and when to be like more of a coach,
Mm-hmm.
or be more of a like, okay, let me handle this.
So many children today can't get out of conflict because we do too much for them.
Right.
So having them write an email is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
My kids have left their shoes so many times. Like, it's like you get to school and the child doesn't have shoes. And I'm guilty of going back to get them because at a private school, I don't know what you're going to do. Like, right, you just can't go to school. But I have now learned as they've gotten older, if your kid leaves their jacket or their lunch, y'all got to figure it out.
Yes.
You might have to go to the hot lunch line and eat something that you don't like, or you might have to be a little cold, but you have to learn how to fix life's situations because one day you're going to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just turn around every single time and fix it, especially if you have a job.
Right.
It's
I've definitely had a
hard
couple times where my kids have forgotten their lunch, and I'm just like, it's going to be all right. And so they end up getting whatever it is they have at lunch, and then
because
they don't like it, they figure it out real quick.
At that point, it's not for you to figure out.
Right.
And we're seeing. I don't want to say this, and it's going to sound mean, or because I'm not talking about anybody's child. But sometimes, you know how we say we're more resilient, or they can't handle things like we can?
Mm-hmm.
It's because we trying to fix everything for them.
Mm-hmm.
They can't handle everything like we can, because if I left my food, mama's at work, I ain't eating.
Right.
I might not even have any money. Back when I grew up, it was a payphone. I couldn't call nobody. I couldn't just be like, hey, let me text my mom and get some food. Mm-hmm. When I grew up, I had to have a dime. I had to have a dime to drop in the payphone, to call my mother, or to even beep her. Because back then we had a pager. It was like beep, 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 beep. Yeah. And my mother was like calling home immediately. Is everything okay? I'm like, we couldn't do the things we did now. Right? So technology is a blessing and a curse. My mother wasn't turning around. Jean wasn't turning around to do nothing. It was like, no.
And I think the question we have to ask ourselves is, if we are fixing things for our children, whose confidence are we building?
Ours.
Right.
Because we're like, yeah, I did it.
Exactly.
Hey girl, I came and gave Gracie her shoes.
And as adults, like, we're the parents, like, we need to have that figured out.
And because I'm an empty nester parent, I want you to understand with each child it's different.
Absolutely.
With each child it's a different phase. With D, he didn't have a cell phone. I remember when he first got a cell phone. I had to trust that D said was going to be where he said he was.
Just like our parents had to trust that we were going to be where we said
D
we were going to be.
and his friends all wanted to drive a separate car because they wanted everybody to see their cars, right? I'm like, what? You want to save some gas? He's like, yeah, no, I'm driving. I'm driving. I got it. I'm like, okay. Look, they were in their sedans and shit. Like they were like rolling. And I'm like, okay, but you're wasting money. He's like, yeah, no, no. But then he gets somewhere he don't want to be and it's too far. And they all wish they would have rolled together. But then, the best lesson is a bought lesson. The best lesson is a bought lesson.
That kind of leads into number 6, because number 6 is don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. Mm-hmm. Like, remember what you said is like every child is different. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to raise your child the way that child is. Like, for instance, I felt like when I was growing up, my mom kind of tried to raise my brother and myself like the same way. And my brother definitely needed a little bit more discipline than I did in some ways. And then, remember that there's no perfect child. There's no perfect life. I say this to my clients, progress, you've heard me say this, progress over perfection. Like, we're just looking for incremental change.
I'm a client. I just don't pay, but I'm a client. I'm a client.
Incremental, like, progress. Like, it doesn't need to be perfect. Like, no one's perfect. And how boring would life be if things were perfect? Like, just think about the times when things didn't quite go the way you wanted, how it always works out probably better than you anticipated.
We had a comment, and I just want to address this comment from a young lady that was like, nobody told me that it was good parenting was going to be like this, and I'm giving up all this. And, listen, ladies, hello. I don't wake up like this.
Hello.
I want all of you to know, as mothers, first of all, it is the hardest job in the world. Your husband won't understand. Your kids won't understand. Nobody will understand what you go through but you. It is very important to find a platform, a group, or somebody that says, hey, I'm going through that too. Because I've raised 3 kids. Mm-hmm. There have been times that I would go in my room, shut that door, get on that pillow and be like, Jesus, what is happening? Like, what is happening? It was all that I could do to do something for myself to get my nails done, right? I can't run out and get my hair done every time I wanted to, but I would be in the kitchen probably doing a roller set. I would be figuring it out. But what I want to say to all of y'all is, there is no hype in motherhood when they're little and they're infants and they're breastfeeding and you're making bottles and you got to go to work and you got a stroller and you get out of your car and you got 16 bags, a backpack, a diaper bag, and then the dog, and then you got a dog, and then the baby poops, and then it's chaotic. But what I want to say to you all is, be still and know that He is God. It will fix itself. Again, trust the process, because one day they're going to get old. And as you always say, the fingerprints ain't going to be on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And you're going to look at them and you're going to look at the fruit of your labor. So if I could give you nothing else in this conversation, the fruit of your labor will be great. Will be great. And when they get grown, it's not your choice who they're going to be. You don't get to decide who they're going to be. They get to be who they want to be. So maybe some fall off. Maybe some stay strong. There is not a perfect life. There's not a perfect parent, and you're not doing it wrong. You're just figuring it the fuck out.
Yeah.
So, number 7. I think I said it.
Is that number 7?
Embrace the messy moments.
Yeah, and I think it's
embrace the messy moments.
I would love to say something I wish I would have done sooner. Is a point you kind of just touched on is find your tribe.
Yes.
Don't isolate yourself. I think I isolated myself so much when my girls were younger. And if I would have had a group of women around me, and which is actually how I met you, right, from a mutual friend, because I started hanging out with her and taking the girls swimming. But but having people around you that are going through a similar or in a similar life space as you makes such a huge difference, because you realize, okay, that is normal that my kid throws the food off the
Exactly.
high chair or whatever it is. It's
Kids
just
are
like
kids.
it's just good to have that support. So I would say find your tribe and just have that support system.
I mean, and know that parenting's parenting. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, if you're sitting up winning the perfect parent award, you're not.
You're not living.
If you haven't
You
been
gotta
through
live.
no shit with your kids, with your husband, with your friend, that's a lie. That's not true. Everybody has been through something. So if you come out and you look like the most pristine mom with your little buggy and you're running around and you have all the snacks, I will never forget that one day my girlfriend's daughter came. She was taking care of her niece and her brother. And she came and her brother was playing baseball. And I looked at her and I said, man, your mama taught you well. She had the snacks laid out. She had their stuff together. She had the medicine. She had all the things done. And she looked at me and said, but I'm tired as hell. And that's real talk. That is real talk. She was worn the hell out. She has done her job that she never gets off. And mothers, you don't get to take a day off. I wish I could take a day off, because even if I have a day off, they're going to text me or call me and say something to me. So we're going to close this basically just saying, find your tribe, find your group, find your support system. Know that you're not alone. Know that you're not the only mother that is trying to figure out what the fuck is happening. Know that you're not crazy. You're not crazy. You don't have to have a baby and lose weight in 2 weeks. You don't have to walk around and be the Lululemon mom of the year. You don't have to be perfect every time you walk out the house. What you have to do is try your best to raise amazing people.
And think about how full your life is with if your kids weren't in your life, you know what I mean? Like, what would your life be? I kind of think about that sometimes.
But everybody wants what they don't have. Like, right?
I just think
everybody
they
wants
just make
what
your
they don't
life
have.
so full.
Some people want straight hair. Some people have curly hair.
And
Everybody wants what they don't. Exactly. Everybody wants what they don't have. You don't get a perfect family. You work towards better goals. You know what I'm saying? There's no handbook on how to be a mother. Nobody's giving you a cookbook on how to be a mother. I don't care how many podcasts y'all listen to. I don't care how many TikToks you do. Mothering and parenting is instincts. Trusting your instinct, listening to your gut, knowing when to say yes or no. And as you said, when you say no, you stick to it.
Can I start over? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Level up. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Pickup Line.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch us.
And listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.